Hi, so my name is Amanda, and today I will be talking about the home front conflicts during World War II and the Cold War for our Section 3 assignment. So during these two wars, there was a wide array of conflicts happening on the home front, not just internationally over in Germany and Japan and whatnot. So during World War II, there was the conflict about the Jewish refugee crisis and the civil rights for African Americans and conflicts among ethnic Mexican agricultural workers. And during the Cold War, the conflicts were a bit more social, with subjects such as youth rebellion and gender equality and the cultural rejection of mainstream mores. So first, I would like to talk about the issues during World War II. I'd like to start off with the subject of civil rights for African Americans. Even after the amendments that gained rights for blacks, African Americans were still not seen as equals, and almost even up to 80 years after the rights were passed. Though the most common problems that were still occurring were lynching and discrimination. People working in the government even blatantly discriminated against the black race. For example, Senator Theodore Bilbo made a statement in the Lister Hill papers on how he would not want to see the Caucasian and Negro blood intertwined. He was against intermarriage, miscegenation, mongrelization, and the mongrelization of whites and blacks. He even stated that with the respect and love that I have for Caucasian blood, I would not want to see it contaminated with Negro blood. Now, that is pretty racist, even in the 1940s. And another problem was lynching. It was still a prominent issue against African Americans during the war. Although the mass mob lynching had significantly declined, the act had then gone underground or privately, as noted in the NAACP papers on Lynching Goes Underground. Therefore, to people who were not aware of the violent act that was still happening around them because it was now private and under the public's eye, they started to think it was no longer a problem and started to work less towards an anti-lynching bill. But the secretary of NAACP, Walter White, actually noticed this, though, and stated that lynching is more alive than ever and progress must be made towards an anti-lynching bill. So, another discrimination against African Americans was that they were not wanted in the military. African Americans loved their country too, even though we forced them to come here, and they wanted to fight for their country as well, but they were looked down upon and were not allowed to join the normal military. But if they were allowed to join, they were most commonly set into separate groups and separate units of all black people. And one of my favorite examples from that is the movie Red Tails, where a unit of African American males they're all pilots, but of course were given the worst planes, worst resources, worst campgrounds and hospitality and everything like that. They ended up forcing their way into escorting the U.S. bombers to Germany because they noticed that a lot of the bombers kept getting shot down before they could reach their destination. So they were like, guys, let us help you. And they basically forced their way in there. And they ended up saving many of the bomber pilots' lives and helped them all get to their destination. And they were actually finally accepted as equals among that group. But unfortunately, not all of the African American military groups had this opportunity, and they were still strongly fighting for equal opportunity in the military. And then another home front conflict during World War II was that there were arising issues about ethnic Mexican agricultural workers. So during the war, many native citizens were involved in jobs that helped fight against the war, such as military and factories producing ammo and other war products and stuff like that. And so there was a lack in the amount of agricultural workers. Mexicans then saw this as an opportunity to better their lives by moving to America and filling in the needed positions. And even some recruiting programs were put in place to bring in Mexicans for work. And there was a lot of conflict about that at first. And then in the Carl T. Hayden papers, a man named Don stated that, "I hope it will prove possible to keep enough wet Mexicans on the job in California and Arizona to take care of the fall harvest," which is pretty racist in itself. So then American citizens only saw the Mexican immigrants as temporary workers, though, filling in the job that needed to be filled at the time, and then wanting to get rid of them after they returned from the war. So they figured they should move back to Mexico since the job positions were no longer needed to be filled. And then the Mexicans believed that they should be treated equally because they came here, they got their citizenship process rightfully, and had most of them brought their whole families with them and wanted the better opportunity that America had. And so they were having a lot of issues and fighting for equal opportunity and equal rights as well, just like the African Americans. So after World War II, the Cold War arose, which was not an actual war, more of a stagnant possible war that was on the brink, that never happened. So during the Cold War, the youth started rebelling strongly against conformists, and most of those were elders and their parents. Youth wanted to do everything so drastically different from the earlier generation and saw the normal as uncool or wrong. Malvina Reynolds' song Tiny Boxes describes how the conformists lived in all the same style homes and everything. They dressed the same, they looked the same, they acted the same. Pretty much just everyone was just like each other. So youths were realizing this and wanted to be able to express themselves and were uprising against the norm. Elvis Presley had a big influence on the youth, singing more vulgarly than other artists had before, and introducing the new rock and roll style music. Youths were sneaking out of their homes to attend his concerts and created great amounts of unrest for their parents and the conformists. And everything started to change then, everything with like the gender equality and morals, just everything started changing during this time. So the second homefront conflict that arose partially because of this was that gender equality started becoming more of an issue. And men were fighting to not have to be as masculine or be able to act feminine and sexy, and to be more confused and more ambiguous, as seen on Rebel Without a Cause. But another part to this, besides youth rebelling, was that women were fighting for more gender equality, such as positions for jobs and pay, and that was the main issue. While watching one of the I Love Lucy episodes, Rick was yelling at his wife, and the way she was responding is the way that a scared dog or a child would be acting when yelled at. She then proceeds to say that she can do the regular job and make the income and make the money, and he can stay at home and do the housework for a week, just to show him that she is capable of being the breadwinner and that he shouldn't be yelling at her for supposedly laying around the house and not doing anything while she was doing housework. Another episode was where Lucy wants to fit in with the guys and goes out hunting with her husband and is trying to show him that she can be just as good as a shot as him. And she has the help of her friend, who she sets up a fake or a real horseshoe like really far away, and her friend rings a bell when she shoots the gun to show that she actually hit the target she was aiming at, when in reality she didn't. So she tricked her husband that way. So it just goes to show you that I Love Lucy really did portray several different gender inequality conflicts that usually pass right over the viewers' heads, but when watched really closely, the show has a lot of meaning as to how men treated women so differently and unequal. And then also, women during the war fought hard for equal pay and positions at companies and have continued to do so even to today. Unfortunately, women still make, on average, usually about 20% less than men do on a global level. So these are my 4 examples of home front conflicts during the 2 wars, 2 conflicts from each war. African Americans were fighting for civil rights, as were the ethnic Mexican agricultural workers during World War II, and youth rebellion and gender equality issues were on the rise during the Cold War. So thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.